Welcome everyone. My name is Norm Thompson. I have the honor to do the opening remarks for Heritage Funeral Home's 21st year of Christmas memorials. As this year has evolved, many changes have taken place. One of them, for Heritage Funeral Home, this will be our first virtual Christmas memorial service. We have all at one time or another lost a loved one or loved ones. Some just recently, others not so recently. But the grief, loss, sorrow, pain, emptiness, and loneliness are all emotions and feelings which have no time frame. The expression "time will heal all wounds" is somewhat correct, but it isn't always as comforting, soothing, or as quick as we would like it to be. If you're like me, the holidays are a little tougher to get through without that special loved one. We want to remember our loved ones who have gone before us, not only to share a little pain and a little sorrow, but also a little laughter and a little joy that we hold in those memories of our loved ones. We also know that our loved ones who have passed on have touched our lives in a significant way, and that we too must be touching someone else's life in a special way in return. We are to remember that we are not alone.
And I'm going to do coping with the holidays. Christmas and the holiday season for people who have experienced death of someone they love is often far from a time of peace, happiness, and goodwill. People who have not experienced a significant bereavement may not understand the incredible yearning, sadness, and anger that it can intensify around the significant anniversaries and rituals such as Christmas. Coping with Christmas has much to do with challenging your expectations of the perfect Christmas. It is important to acknowledge that you are not totally responsible for others' happiness, but also that they cannot assist you if you are not aware of your pain or concerns. Be gentle with yourself, trying not to expect too much of yourself or those around you. Make good sense, but often needs planning. Here are a few other suggestions for getting through the holiday season, and please remember that grief and holiday coping strategies are deeply personal. Follow your inner guidance. Tips for coping with grief during the holidays. Acknowledge that the holidays will be different and they will be tough. Remember that not everyone will be grieving the same way you are grieving. Remember that the way others will want to spend the holiday may not match how you want to spend the holiday. Be honest. Tell people what you do want to do for the holidays and what you don't want to do. Light a candle in your home in memory of the persons you lost. Journal when you are having a especially bad day. Writing helps bring out feelings that are buried within. Bring them out on paper. We'll release them. Pull out an old photo album and spend some time during the holiday looking at photos. Talk to kids about the holidays. It can be confusing for kids that the holidays can be both happy and sad after a death. Let them know that it's okay to enjoy the holiday and it is okay to be sad. Skip or minimize the decorations if they are too much this year. Don't worry, you'll see plenty of the decorations outside your home. And don't feel guilty if you do skip or minimize the decorations. Remember that crying is okay. The holidays are everywhere, and who knows what may trigger a cry fest. We've all been there, and it's okay to cry, even if you are in the sock aisle at Walmart. Let your perfectionism go. If you always have the perfect tree, perfectly wrapped gifts, and perfect table, accept that this year may not be the perfect, and that's okay. I know this is easier said than done, but give it a try. Ignore people who want to tell you what you should do for the holidays. Listen to yourself, trust yourself, communicate with your family. Do what works for you. Seek gratitude, but try to find one daily gratitude throughout the holiday season. Write it down, photograph it, share it on Facebook, whatever. Just look for the little things. Here are some tips if you are struggling with it. Watch the food. Food can make us feel better in the short term, but we feel like crap later when we ate the whole tin of holiday cookies. And watch the booze. Alcohol can become a fast friend when we are grieving. Don't deprive yourself, but be careful that you don't let food or alcohol become your holiday comfort. Consider minimizing the time you spend watching the news. It is sensible to be aware of major announcements by government and health officials. Outside that, don't watch the news if it increases your stress level. Set aside differences. Try to accept family members and friends as they are, even if they don't live up to all your expectations. Set aside grievances until a more appropriate time for discussion, and be understanding if others get upset or distressed when something goes awry. Chances are they are feeling the effects of holiday stress and depression too. Stick to a budget before you do your Christmas and food shopping. Decide how much money you can afford to spend. Then stick to your budget. Don't try to buy happiness with an avalanche of gifts, and don't feel guilty if you wish to not buy any gifts. Remember, it's okay to be happy. This doesn't diminish how much you love or miss the person who isn't there this holiday. Don't feel guilty for the joy you do find this holiday season.
Lighting of candles, a liturgy of remembering. This first candle we light to remember those whom we have loved and lost. We pause to remember their names, their faces, their voices, and the memories that bind them to us in this season. As Heritage Funeral Home, we would like to acknowledge all those who Heritage Funeral Home have served over the past 20 years. Especially, we want to remember those who have served this year, that they may be blessed. Also to remember those even from other areas who have not been served by us, but have lost a loved one. We want to remember them as well at this time of the season, that they will not be forgotten. We want to recognize through this year of so many uncertainties, that there have been those who have lost their lives prematurely, and we want to remember them and their loved ones who are suffering greatly at this time. May God's eternal love surround them. This second candle we light is to redeem the pain of loss, the loss of relationships, the loss of jobs, the loss of health. We pause to gather up the pain of the past and offer it to God, asking that from God's hands we receive the gift of peace. Refresh, restore, renew us, O God, and lead us into your future. This third candle we light is to remember ourselves this Christmas time. We pause and remember those past weeks and months, the disbelief, the anger, the downtimes, the poignancy of reminiscing, the hugs and handshakes of family and friends, all those who stood with us. We give thanks for all the support we have known. Let us remember that dawn defeats darkness. This fourth candle is lit to remember our faith and the gift of hope, which the Christmas story offers to us. We remember that God, who shares our life, promises us a place and time of no more pain and suffering. Let us remember the one who shows us the way, who brings the truth, and who bears the light. Amen.
My name is Linda Peterson, and I would like to share a story with you called The Letter. It's just a small white envelope stuck among the branches of our Christmas tree. There's no name, no identification, and no inscription. It has peeked through the branches of our tree for the past 10 years or so. It all began because my husband Mike hated Christmas. Oh, not the true meaning of Christmas, but the commercial aspects of it. Overspending, the frantic running around at the last minute to get a tie for Uncle Harry, and the dusting powder for Grandma. The gifts given in desperation because you couldn't think of anything else. Knowing he felt this way, I decided one year to bypass the usual shirts, sweaters, ties, and so forth. I reached for something special just for Mike. This inspiration came in a very unusual way. Our son Kevin, who was 12 that year, was wrestling at the junior level at the school he attended, and shortly before Christmas there was a non-league match against a team sponsored by an inner-city church. These youngsters, dressed in sneakers so ragged that shoestrings seemed to be the only thing holding them together, presented a sharp contrast to our boys in their spiffy blue and gold uniforms and sparkling wrestling shoes. As the match began, I was alarmed to see that the team was wrestling without headgear, a kind of light helmet designated to protect a wrestler's ears. It was a luxury the rag team obviously could not afford. Well, we ended up walloping them. We took every weight class. And as each of their boys got up from the mat, he swaggered around in his tatters with false bravado, a kind of street pride that couldn't acknowledge defeat. Mike, seated beside me, shook his head sadly. I wish just one of them could have won, he said. They have a lot of potential, but losing like this could take the heart right out of them. Mike loved kids, all kids. And he knew them, having coached Little League, football, baseball, and lacrosse. That's when the idea for his present came. That afternoon, I went to a local sporting goods store and bought an assortment of wrestling headgear and shoes and sent them anonymously to the inner city church. On Christmas Eve, I placed the envelope on the tree, the note inside telling Mike what I had done, and this was his gift from me. His smile was the brightest thing about Christmas that year and in succeeding years. For each Christmas, I followed the tradition, one year sending a group of mentally handicapped youngsters to a hockey game. Another year, a check to a pair of elderly brothers whose home had burned to the ground the week before Christmas, and so on. The envelope became the highlight of our Christmas. It was always the last thing opened on Christmas morning, and our children, ignoring their new toys, would stand with wide-eyed anticipation as their dad lifted the envelope from the tree to reveal its contents. As the children grew, the toys gave way to more practical presents, but the envelope never lost its allure. The story doesn't end here. You see, we lost Mike last year due to dreaded cancer. When Christmas rolled around, I was still so wrapped in grief that I barely got the tree up. But Christmas Eve found me placing an envelope on the tree, and in the morning it was joined by 3 more. Each of our children, unbeknownst to the other, had placed an envelope on the tree for their dad. The tradition has grown and someday will expand even further, with our grandchildren standing around the tree with wide-eyed anticipation, watching as their fathers take down the envelope. Mike's spirit, like the Christmas spirit, will always be with us. May we all remember Christ, who is the reason for the season, and the true Christmas spirit this year and always. God bless. Pass this along to your friends and loved ones. In 2018, I lost my son to an accident. And this will be the 3rd Christmas without him. How am I feeling? My heart hurts a little less. I can look at pictures and not cry, but remember the memories we made. The feeling of that blanket that tightly enwrapped me is finally loosening up, and I know that someday it will fall off and I will be okay. I think of him often and know that I will be okay.
I'm Pastor Brian Lane, and I'd just like to share just a short devotion with you. As I heard that Christmas story a short time ago, I began to see another story that is even older than that one. But to many, it's also a very familiar story. A story of how God, as He looked down on His fallen creation and saw, as it is also today, the uncertainty, the confusion, the lost hope, the fear, the loss of loved ones. And in doing so, he put in motion his plan that he'd done right from when man fell, to bring hope and love and peace to His creation that He loves so dearly. And then through individuals that He chose, He began to give them a message to record, which is God's letter to us. That all succeeding generations may come to understand that you are not alone and without hope, and that God is faithful to His written word, and many times throughout His word He says, I am with you, fear not, I will never leave you nor forsake you. So over the course of history, God's plan of redeeming man from this life of sin and hopelessness, His letter says, I love you. I will come to you and bring peace. So God has given His letter to man. And when the time was right, God sent His word in the form of human flesh to come and dwell among us. In the book of John, in the Bible, in John 1:14 says, "And the Word became flesh and dwelt among us. And we beheld his glory, the glories of the only begotten of the Father, full of grace and truth." And then in Matthew it says, "Behold, the virgin shall be with child and bear a son, and they shall call his name Emmanuel," which is translated, God with us. And as you read in the book of Luke, it says, "For there is born to you this day in the city of David a Savior who is Christ the Lord." And then going into the book of Ephesians, it says, "For by grace you have been saved through faith, and that not of yourselves, it is the gift of God." That letter became alive and walked with man. Experienced what you and I experience. He experienced love. He experienced the loss of a friend. And one of the shortest verse in the Word of God says, Jesus wept. He faced rejection. He was bullied. People and friends deserted him in his time of need. He was tempted by Satan, falsely accused. And then, as part of God's plan, God placed, or had him placed, his letter on the tree, that through his life, death, and then his resurrection, we too could be given newness of life, hope, and the assurance of a future. That in our darkest and loneliness of times, we could have hope and a light. Jesus said in the book of John, "I am the light of the world. He who follows me, he shall not walk in darkness, but have the light of life." And that in Jesus we could once again find our hope, our joy, our peace, our life renewed to carry on. Jesus knows just how you are feeling. And he says to you and me, "Come, lay your burdens, your cares, your loss, your anger, your hurts, whatever it is that is too heavy for you to carry, come and put it on me, because I care and love you so much more than you can even begin to imagine." And to those who give their burdens to him, he will give you the strength needed for each and every day. Yes, for each and every day. He doesn't judge you for how you feel. He just wants to help you face each day and to bring back to you fullness and joy. You see, in the Old Testament of the Bible, it's in the book of Jeremiah, it says, "Call to me, and I will answer you and show you great and mighty things which you do not know." So as you enter this Christmas season again, amidst all the uncertainty, may you experience the joy and peace of this season and find comfort in God's letter that he placed on the tree for you, and live in his love and grace. And I want to close with this blessing. It's found in the book of Numbers, chapter 6, and it says, "May the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord make his face to shine upon you and be gracious unto you. May the Lord lift up his countenance upon you and give you his shalom," his peace, his comfort, his joy, his rest. And may you rest in his arms, free from fear and anxiety, free from hurt and pain, and enjoy this season of light that God's letter brought to you through him being put on the tree, and be a blessing where you are. Amen.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Rosemary Forsberg, and as Norm has mentioned at the beginning of our service, this is our 21st Christmas memorial. And I've been very fortunate to have a great staff that have helped provide these memorial services for so many years. Thank you to each and every one of you that have come forward to speak, and to our new production team for having helped us with our first virtual service, and to Pastor Brian Lane for your kind words. This is a difficult year, especially for families who have lost a loved one. The restrictions that have been placed on families with planning a service or attending a service, and then keeping the distance from one another. For those who have lost a loved one missing the comfort of a hug or the warm embrace that we give each other in our time of need. Yes, it has been a difficult year. Now, other years, when we conduct our Christmas memorials, we would have someone from our support group come forward and share how they handled their first, their second, or even their fifth Christmas memorial. They would talk about their feelings and how they coped, and they did share it was difficult those first years. And then as time went by, each Christmas came an acceptance, and it became a part of the healing journey. They also gave themselves permission to feel all their emotions that one goes through when a loss takes place. The people who shared their stories also shared and gave to others hope. They shared hope that the memories of your loved one will turn into a treasured memories, and that you will slowly let go of the pain and start to remember the good times that you had with that individual. And in time, when you find yourself mentioning your loved one's name, you will say, "Remember when?" And a smile comes upon your face. With what is going on right now with the restrictions with limited families and a number of families attending the service, this does cause difficult situations. The service has come to an end, and there is no fellowship, no place to gather or to visit with family and friends. And at this time, I'd just like to share a little story with you. I just completed a funeral service just a couple of days ago, in fact, and yes, the restrictions were on. And we all finally met at the cemetery, and everyone sort of looked at each other and gave their goodbyes, and all these different families, which was a very small group, all went their separate ways in our so-called units, as we call it now. But I talked to this one particular lady who, as they left the cemetery, they went to their homes. And the lady who had died was a mom or a grandma. And so everybody went to their house. And they sort of sat there and they kind of looked at each other and they went, what do we do now? And so one person picked up a photo album and they started to look at a photo album. And then they found another photo album and they started looking at another photo album. And then they remembered, in the eulogy, we talked about how grandma liked the pot of gold chocolates. Well, before you knew it, someone went out and bought a box of pot of gold chocolates. So now they're looking at photos and they're looking at videos and they're eating chocolates and they're sharing their feelings about her and what they experienced with grandma or mom. And everybody was looking at each other going, I didn't know you knew grandma that way. And so there was such a gathering that they had, a warm gathering of sharing and laughter. And yes, it ended and they all had to go their separate ways. And yes, Christmas is going to come and they're going to feel their grief, and they're going to allow that grief to come because they have learned something. They were very grateful that that person was in their lives and that they will never forget what they have in their hearts and how that person played a part in their lives. And that also forms a legacy that they will carry on and they will pass on through their families and the generations. And that is what they remember. And that is what they're going to carry every Christmas with them. A number of years ago, Heritage Funeral Home created a book called Coping with the Holiday Grief. We offer this book to anyone who wishes to have a copy. Call Heritage Funeral Home at area code 306 862-3979, or email us at heritagefuneral@southsdale.net. The booklet contains coping tools and short stories. And now, with permission, some of the stories are actually from individuals who attended our grief support group. I'd like to share one short story. It is about a lady who talked about how she would bake her Christmas cookies each year. When she would take her cookies from the oven and start to place them on a cooling rack, some of the cookies would break, and so she would put the broken cookies into a bowl. And she found herself crying. And as she was putting these cookies in the bowl, and at the same time as she's putting the cookies in the bowl and she's crying, her doorbell rings. And when she goes to the door, she's got tears in her eyes, and she answers the door, and her dear friend is standing there. And her friend looks at her and says, "Why are you crying?" And the lady answers back, and she says, "Every time I baked my cookies, and when they broke, I put them in a bowl, and my husband would eat them, and he's no longer here, and I miss him so much." Her friend put her arms around her and said, "Let's have some coffee, and I'll eat your broken cookies." Now, this may seem like a small gesture, but to that lady with the broken cookies, it was meant so much that she shared it with our support group. And her friend gave her the comfort that she needed at that time. So, if you know of anyone who is hurting this year out there, call them, text them, or send them a card. You know, the old-fashioned way with a card in the Christmas mail. It's kind of nice to get a card in the mail when you know that someone's taken an effort to put their name and a note on a card and put it into the post office. And also, one of the best gifts you can give to someone that is hurting is the gift of listening. Listening to them on how they feel without judgment or with empathy. And for those who have lost someone, please remember the anticipation of the holiday season is far greater than the holiday season itself. Now take each minute, each hour, each day as they come, and you have the permission to shed the tears and to take a break from your grief and to smile and to laugh. Your loved one would not want you to feel guilty because you feel a little joy in your heart during the season. And for many, this is your first Christmas. But in time, your grief will fade, but your love for your loved one will never fade. It'll be there forever. Thank you.
I'm back again. On behalf of Heritage Funeral Home, we hope that you have found some comfort in our service. We hope that suggestions with coping with the holiday season may help, or if you know of anyone going through a difficult time, our Christmas memorial service will be on our website, www.heritagefuneral.ca, or you can join us on our Facebook page. You will be able to share that also, and if you want to, you can watch it more than once. As our program comes to a close, Heritage Funeral Home would like to take this opportunity to extend our appreciation and gratitude to the following. Thank you to all the healthcare workers for their countless hours in taking care of our families and friends. To our law enforcement officers for keeping our communities and country safe. To all levels of government for helping to assist in these difficult and confusing times. To all the essential and non-essential workers who are providing their services to the best of their ability. To all of our church leaders of all denominations who continue to give us words of hope and faith. To the families and friends who are there caring for each other. To our fellow funeral directors, thank you for reaching out and helping one another so we can all provide the proper service that all our families require. Thank you to each and everyone for taking care of yourself and be safe. With the strength and the support from all of us, we will get through these trying times. This will end our service with a poem. Thank you.
As mentioned before, we've done this 21 years, and in those 21 years, we always end our service with a poem. And the poem is called My First Christmas in Heaven. And I have written down author unknown because every year I do my research, and there are so many different people who said they have said or created this poem. So I will always say author unknown. My first Christmas in heaven. I see the countless Christmas trees around the world below, with tiny lights like heaven's stars reflecting on the snow. The sight is so spectacular. Please wipe away that tear, for I am spending Christmas with Jesus Christ this year. I've heard the many Christmas songs that people hold so dear, but the sound of music can't compare with the Christmas choir up here. I have no words to tell you the joy their voices bring, for it is beyond description to hear the angels sing. I know how much you miss me. I see the pain inside your heart, but I am not so far away. We really aren't apart. So be happy for me, dear ones. You know I hold you dear, and I am glad I'm spending Christmas with Jesus Christ this year. I send you each a special gift from my heavenly home above. I send you each a memory of my underlying love. After all, love is the gift more precious than pure gold. It is also most important in the stories that Jesus told. Please love and keep each other, the Father said to do, for I can't count the blessings or the love He has for you. So have a Merry Christmas and wipe away that tear. Remember, I am spending Christmas with Jesus Christ this year. To each and every one, may your Christmas and the new year be filled with peace, hope, and healing. Take care. On behalf of Heritage Funeral Home.